Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gemma Van Houdren. I'm from the United Nations ESCAP Statistics Division in Bangkok. It's very lovely to have you with us this afternoon. This is our sixth Asia-Pacific Stats Café brought to you. The first, we've covered censuses, the impact of COVID on surveys. We've also introduced some GIS technologies to you. But today we've brought together some wonderful speakers to talk to you about data portals. This is a very important part of our business in Statistics Office. How do we disseminate our information and make it usable? So it's a great pleasure to have with us today three organisations. My colleague, Mr. Dayan Shayani, will show you a portal that we've built here in ESCAP to bring together the various tools that the National Statistical Offices in our region have developed. We'll then be inviting Mr. Richard Evans from Statistics New Zealand. Statistics New Zealand have built a data portal, a COVID-19 data portal, and he'll showcase how that's been brought together. And then very happy to have with us today Doris Marfat and Ravi Shankar from the WHO, the World Health Organization, who, as we all know, have brought together not one but multiple data portals for the COVID-19 situation. And they're joining us here this afternoon and evening from Geneva, very early where they are. So thank you for them. Just a reminder that this is platform that we're using is MS Teams. In the middle, if you scroll your mouse into the middle of the screen, a little black bar comes up, and at any time you can put your hand up for a question or put your question in the chat box. And after the three presentations, we'll be going to a question and answer session, and our speakers are also happy to answer questions in the chat box as we go along. So we will do the three presentations and then we'll have time for questions and answers, but please feel free at any time to raise your hand in the MS Teams or put your question in chat. So without further ado, let me hand over to Mr. Dayan Shayani from the ESCAP Statistics Division. Thank you, Dayan. And we can see your screen. Thanks, Dayan.
Excellent. Thank you, Gemma. So my name is Dayan Shayani. I work with Gemma in the Statistics Division of ESCAP, and I'm very pleased to share with you my experience setting up the COVID-19 policy tracker. Please allow me to say a few words on how it started, and then I'll show you how it works. I'll demonstrate it for you. So it was early May this year when I got an email saying that a policy brief was published by the ESCAP division for macroeconomic analysis. They had put together a neat database showing how the countries in the region were responding to the pandemic. However, they didn't know how to make this data available online. On the other hand, our team had recently launched a redesigned data portal on the SDGs. It's called the Asia-Pacific SDG Gateway. And we had improved our skills to create data visualizations for the web. And so I told them, well, let's try to work together and build something. And that's how we started with this policy tracker for the region. First dashboard was published with containment measures and macroeconomic policies. And then the colleagues from across ESCAP approached me with data on their own subject matters and asked if it would be possible to integrate them into the tracker. So now we end up with this very nice collection of national policy responses from across Asia-Pacific, all in one place. It is one of the most visited pages in the ESCAP website. And it was a really rewarding experience for me because the tracker was really put together within a few days, and we tapped into the expertise of several specialists across the organization. I wanted to share with you a few important lessons that we learned from this experience. First is that we really started small and we gradually added more content. We didn't wait to have everything, all the charts and all the data ready before we launched the tracker. And the second is that we we build upon this multidisciplinary work of ESCAP, and we built bridges across different divisions. This has opened a lot of doors for collaboration with other teams in ESCAP. And we even started an interest group on data and visualization. And the third is that once you build your first data portal, as we did with the gateway, then it becomes very easy to create new ones for specific purposes. And the data and visualization skills that we acquired allow us to then quickly respond to new scenarios. I'd like to show you now how it looks like. Open here. So this is the main ESCAP website. There is a page for the COVID-19 response. And here we have our dashboard. You can see here on the left-hand side the different domains that we have data for. So we have fiscal policies, monetary policies, policies that affect small and medium enterprises, trade measures, transport, social protection, and statistics. This dashboard was based on Tableau, and it was done all based on open and free software. So we used the open Tableau called Tableau Public, which is free, and it's hosted also by them. And so we created these sorts of charts so that whoever comes here, they can see a bigger picture of how the countries are responding, what kind of trade measures, trade barriers are being implemented, what each country is doing in terms of transport measures. And finally, also, we have social protection, social incentives, social benefits being implemented by governments around the region. And we have also a page for the statistics, or what statistics offices are doing. And I thank a lot of my colleagues for researching this. And we have been able to compile a list of countries that have implemented some social economic rapid response surveys to the situation. And here we have links to the different surveys and different NSO websites, and also more resources for statistics systems. With that, I would like to highlight New Zealand, which is one of those here. And I'd like to hand over to Richard from Stats New Zealand for his presentation.
Wonderful. That was a great transition. Thank you very much. You'll see there's some interesting points. So I'm going to tell the story of how our New Zealand portal came together, and I'll take as few minutes as possible. We're around 8 to 10 minutes to do that, and then I'll give a very short demonstration so everyone gets to see what that looks like. So yeah, this is basically the story of how data were really important and were really critical to decision making because of COVID. And Stats New Zealand, like any other NSO, most other NSOs, has a full stable of economic indicators, but very few, if any of them, were frequent enough and timely enough to really be useful in the crisis. And what we saw across government was a scramble to try and find high frequency indicators. And so many of them appeared in all sorts of ways as the crisis unfolded. And what we've done with this portal is give them a place where they can all gather and be accessible to everybody. So that's the very short version. Now, what we did at the beginning of the crisis was make the whole government, the government family, know that we were available and we were there to help with their COVID data needs, so that the decisions they would make would be, based on data as much as possible. And so we extended the helping hand and the helping ear, especially. And what we heard was that there was a need for high frequency economic indicators. And there was also a need for a central government dashboard. So some kind of fancy dashboard that would bring everything together and be highly informative. And so we set to work on both those things. And the development of high frequency indicators was done one at a time. We started putting out experimental data like our weekly exports and imports and, doing that sort of thing, weekly indicators on visitors to New Zealand, and those were very well received. The work of the dashboard was much more difficult. It was difficult to pin down a single user that could spell out what they wanted. And we had several false starts there. And I remember being more than 4 or 5 weeks into this and feeling that we weren't really making any progress. That was until we developed, we noticed, because of our engagement with all these different government departments, that most of them were very busy trying to brief their ministers on what was going on and how this affected their respective departments. And so there were all kinds of department or ministry specific briefing notes going up to ministers, and many of them had time series charts in them. And this is where we detected an opportunity. We thought maybe we could help support that work by taking on the job of producing those images for them. And so we moved away from the ambition of creating a central dashboard, some kind of complex image that would summarize everything. And we thought we'll do something much humbler. We'll just find out which are the most popular images, and we'll start producing them for them. And so that there would be one place, one central location for all these popular images. They might be images of internet use, it could be truck traffic, whatever the people in the different departments were finding that were high frequency indicators and that were useful. So yeah, it was not surprising that it was difficult to come up with a central image because things were always evolving. New data were always appearing. The crisis was changing. And so the data needs were continually evolving. So these departments faced two different types of challenges in trying to supply their briefings with time series charts. One related to data management. And so did they have the right version of the data? Did they have the most recent? Were they aware, the whole issue of findability? Did they have the data they needed? Did they even know about what data existed? Because different departments were generating different data, sometimes based on their own activity, and which was not known to other departments. So this was also very challenging. There was the risk of error. There were problems with visualization. Some of the policy staffers were not very good at this sort of thing. We're not very good at putting together a nice chart and making it look professional. So we realized that this sort of thing was easy for us. What was difficult for us was understanding the policy need. And to put together a good dashboard, you need to understand the policy need. And so that's why we moved away from that and we focused on our strengths. And our strengths were around data management. The other shortcoming they faced, and that some members of the public were asking about, were what are the data you're using to make decisions? The public has a right to know. So there was a challenge for these departments, these ministries, around transparency. They were making decisions often on the fly, on a week-to-week basis, on information that they had gathered that was not yet public. And so there's a duty to transparency that we owe to the public, and this is where we could help too. And so the COVID portal was what we ended up doing. However, we didn't start with that. Dashian mentioned the importance of starting small and scaling up, and that's exactly what we did. We initially started with a PowerPoint document, which contained about 24 charts, and this was just sent out for 2 or 3 weeks. And then that became a PDF document, and the charts were no longer Excel charts, they became our shiny charts. And then finally, we realized that we really had a winner here if we could just automate this and make this interactive and create a public-facing version that would be hosted on our website. We had the makings of, what we were calling a winner, something that we could produce that would be highly useful. So the portal, when it came out, was immediately very successful, certainly by our standards. We had thousands of visits in the first days. And our web metrics showed that the visits were often very long. I think the average length of a visit was about 14 minutes, which is a long time. And what was happening, we think, is that people were perusing this initial collection of about 30 indicators, and there's over, I don't know how many there are there now. We've been continually adding. There must be at least 50 there now. But they were seeing the crisis evolving in real time, and that was very compelling. So let me just quickly flash my screen, and I'll show you what this thing looks like. Where is it? Gemma, we practiced this just a moment ago. Here it is. It's decided to move to the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Okay, I may have to update the screen.
Yes, it's up there now, Richard, with the tabs along the across the top and the COVID portal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not cooperating though. For some reason, it's not cooperating.
Okay.
Just a moment, something's happening. Here we go.
Here we go.
Loading rather slowly, but it's coming.
Yeah, you have a lot of pages open across the top.
Yeah, that may be the reason. Yeah, I'm a messy guy. All right. So what you see is, this is it. It's very simple. It's called COVID-19 DataPortal. There's a bit of a disclaimer. Note that the data sources are not solely uniquely Stats NZ. They come from other government organizations, our Reserve Bank, and including some private sources. And we have a disclaimer saying there that we're not responsible for the quality of the data. So this is quite a departure for us. But you sort of select these by pulling down these menus. You can look at activity, confidence, employment, etc. If we focus on activity, then we can pick, let's say, broadband usage, as we have here, or card transaction by industry. This goes back many years, so the sliders at the bottom allow you to pick a longer period of time. The decline caused by the crisis is very visible here on the right. And we have one of our brand new indicators that we developed collaboratively with the Treasury and with our Reserve Bank called the New Zealand Activity Index, which uses principal component analysis to extract the common signal of 8 high-frequency indicators. So this is now available monthly and tracks GDP very closely. So that series and many of its component series are available here. So that's a quick view of the portal. Now let me come back to my get rid of that. There we go. That should disappear. I just want to quickly cover some lessons learned, if I may, Gemma, in the final minute.
Certainly, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. This whole experience underlined the importance of knowing clients. The crisis has been a tremendous opportunity to get to know people and talk to them. Never before have our partners been more interested in talking to us and talking about data. You know, once they realize that we can help. This endeavor, the development of the New Zealand Activity Index endeavor, were all examples of collaborative development where we work closely with the intended clients. So we used minimum viable products, and then once we knew we had something that worked and that was popular, we went further, but no further than was needed. This whole experience has made us think differently about quality. Quality, as you know, is not only accuracy, it's also coherence. And these are two parts of quality that we're very good at. These are aspects of quality that we focus on. But we should also focus on timeliness, on frequency, on accessibility, and the COVID portal does that. There's no attempt to be perfect here. You know, this is a great example of the 80-20 rule or the Pareto rule, you know, where it was more important to act quickly. The other thing we did was really leverage the skills of our staff, skills we didn't even know existed in some cases. People came forward and volunteered and did wonderful things really quickly. And finally, I think the importance of playing to your strengths. So know what you're good at and don't try to overwork things that you're not good at, and find partners that are good at the things you're not good at, and then work together. And the 80-20 quickly becomes 20-20, each side contributing 20 and getting the other side's 80, you know? I'm not sure that's mathematically rigorous, but it's a kind of a concept. So in the future, we plan to expand it. One of the surprising things for me has been the response from some policy departments asking us to host their data. And these touch on other themes. So right now we have economic, we have social, we have health. The social and the health are very underrepresented at the moment. So the idea is to expand those, include environment, and get at more of a holistic view of the phenomenon. Because the crisis is not only about economics and business. There are environmental impacts, health impacts, social well-being impacts, all sorts of aspects to this. And so, in as much as it's useful, we'll be trying to expand the portal to include these dimensions as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. And they're really wonderful lessons. And I've just put in the chat box a quote that I really liked from you. The crisis has been a tremendous opportunity to get to talk to data users and to be useful. And I was talking to the Chief Statistician of Australia here last week, and he also said something very similar, that this has been a great opportunity for the statistics